So yes, yeah, talk about Sigma, talk about ETF protocol. So just what questions are there?
So
this is
the
another
Sigma
protocol
thing,
from Alex.
the Sigma thing
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the play, do you figure, Sloth, on Sigma? Like, if that comes to be, what's the play?
Yeah, it's not totally obvious to me quite yet. It's definitely a good infrastructure to have on top of things, but in terms of where is there like some alpha to make some extra returns on stuff, it's not quite known to me just from reading it. Obviously, the ability to create some cash flow with your PulseChain assets, that's an immediately obvious one. That's yield that you don't have access to now by just buying the native asset. So by holding the ETF and staking it, like if you plan to hold these tokens for more than whatever the minimum stake length is, well, that's some income that you're generating that you would not have been generating by just holding the assets. So there's that.
Fair enough. One thing I was a little confused about is, like, what's the difference between these proposed ETFs and just making an LP pool on Fux that has these assets?
There's no impermanent loss that's associated with it because they're liquidity pools. That's the main difference that I'm seeing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But doesn't the ETF have like a rebalancing feature and so on and so forth?
I was looking at it just now when somebody asked the questions because I thought that it did, but I'm not seeing a rebalancing feature. What I see is that it distributes it across the assets at the weighting that it's at. So if it's like the equal weight one, then there is a when you put the die in, then it splits that die up 25% to each one. But I don't see a weighting as of right now, like internal changing of weights. So
Doesn't that sound a lot like a liquidity pool?
if it doesn't rebalance, then
Not if it doesn't, I guess. Yeah.
not if it does. If it does rebalance, then it would be similar to a liquidity pool because it would rebalance based on the asset that's going up. But yeah, if it doesn't rebalance, kind of like a normal ETF, if you have one asset that's running up more than the others, it's going to increase the whole value of the ETF, but it doesn't automatically sell into the other ones. But new money
Right.
that's
Okay.
added in goes equally across the ratios at that point in time.
Yeah. Fair enough. I understand.
I hope I
So,
am explaining that correctly.
when ICOSA V2, I know you guys know. Tell me.
2 weeks is what I last heard. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That
So
works for me.
we'll have to have a test net first, as far as I can tell, or at least when the official information came out, there was talk
Yeah.
about test net will be launched first, which makes sense. You should. It's good practice to have a test net before you launch anything, if you're able to. And so that'll be like the first heads up based on the official information we have.
And like, how is he gonna? How do we think he might make ICOSA V2 better than ICOSA V1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the main thing is going to be the interoperability of each asset across Ethereum and PulseChain. So all of the features that we have right now for Hedron and ICOSA, like bidding on HSI auctions, for example, you have to use the native asset on that chain for that specific like HSI stake. So HEX HWIs need to be bid on with eHedron on the Ethereum blockchain, and the same goes for on the PulseChain side. But when the V2 goes around, both of the eHedron, pHedron, eHedron, eICOSA, PA-ICOSA can be swapped for each other internally, or one for one. So it's like a bridge you can think of where each of them becomes a wrapped version of another. And so that's going to theoretically stabilize the prices as well as allow people to utilize both tokens on each chain depending on where they see there's some value to utilizing those tokens. Yeah, that's probably the biggest utility add to the protocol. And then let me think if there's anything else. The NFT marketplace will be good, so you can buy and sell NFTs, specifically like the HSIs and the Watsas for the protocol, using Hedron and ICOSA, and maybe any other assets that they add on top of it for bidding. And then there's also some quality of life updates too for like the HSI auctions. So the end date of the auction will be spaced out over a period of time. So it's not like it ends at this specific time. It could end any time between this time. And also when a new bid is added at the end of the, so like towards the end, like let's say you have a thing, auction ended in 5 minutes or like 30 seconds, somebody makes a bid, then it adds 5 minutes to the time. The additional time will be variable between like 5 and 15
Stop bots
minutes.
from sniping them as much, sort of thing.
Exactly. So make it harder for bots, kind of make it so that it's fair for the intended user, the person actually clicking buttons.
I'm down with the quality of life stuff, but like I'm sure you guys understand that the main thing with ICOSA is to have like the ICOSA to HEX ratio be in a spot where it makes sense to mint ICOSA by turning in your HEX stakes, right? So you have that potential arbitrage, which is always fun. But it also, that's what keeps the auctions going, is people trading their HEX stakes for ICOSA to market sell or do whatever, stake whatever they want. But the ratio has to be such that it makes sense,
Makes
right?
sense,
Which, it's probably around 60, 70 HEX per ICOSA, something like that. I used to have a little calculator some guy made for me that showed me that. It was a spreadsheet. It was really cool. But yeah, so how would he get the ICOSA price or the ICOSA V2 price to get up to that point and stay around there?
Great question. So I'm looking at the official updates on the Telegram right now. And so it says the HMI. Oh, and that's another thing we'll talk about, the HMIs versus HSIs. But HMI buybacks will pay more ICOSA if under the ceiling using Hedron borrow leverage. So this provides a dynamic ceiling. So extra ICOSA, and then that extra ICOSA will be auto locked into a ladder to make it less like immediate sell pressure. But basically the gap that currently exists with the price, which you can't obviously you can't control what the market sets the price as. The market sets the price at whatever it feels the value is. But it will give more tokens to make up for it, so it makes more financial sense to sell your HSIs with some locking periods associated with it, so that it's not immediately just like giga dumping ICOSA that second. It's more on a timeline.
Yeah, totally. Okay.
And the closer it gets to the ceiling, it seems like the less ICOSA you'll get. So that's the
Okay, so you get, when it's further from the ceiling, you get more ICOSA, but the extra ICOSA you get is like locked, like perhaps staked with like some sort of time lock on it. So you're not going to dump the price automatically, but probably you'll get some liquid too.
You'll probably get the ones that you're normally entitled to liquid right there. And then the extra ones will be locked over a period of time, is what I'm seeing.
Okay. And then if it hits that ceiling, then it's, it's going to be, it'll stop giving you the extra, so that it's less of a variance, like above or below probably the HEX per ICOSA ratio that's desirable.
There's also for Hedron the ability for leverage borrowing. So instead of the base amount of Hedron that you could borrow from an HSI, which before ICOSA was created, the only way to do these auctions was from a defaulted leverage position. And so now with the addition of leverage to it, theoretically you could borrow against it, get more Hedron, and then with the leverage, the probability of a default becomes higher. So there's
I'd say that which will add to the auctions, right?
Yeah, I'd say that one's probably likely to be utilized. If I had to pick one of the two that will increase the volume of the HSI auctions, the leverage bar will probably be the less one, but it's like a tick in the direction of more HSI volume, which, as you said, is the fundamental engine of the whole system.
Yeah. And because then if you have more HSIs, like HEX stakes that are, NFTs that people can buy, then the price of Hedron goes up if Hedron is the only thing you can bid with, right? And then you can get Hedron by staking ICOSA, I do believe. So it makes all those things much more desirable.
Yep, exactly. And HSIs also get an update too. So from HSI to HMI, hex minting instance, kind of, remember back in the day when Richard changed the vocabulary or the terminology from staking to mining? Kind of this is in line with that as well. And I think
Okay.
the biggest thing with that is the where is it? That there is an extra function that allows you to claim airdrops on those HMIs. So on current HSIs, if you have an HSI, something like COM, for example, is a great example. You can only do it with a native stake. It appears that with HMIs, you're going to have that functionality to run arbitrary functions outside of the normal HSI base functions to be able to collect those airdrops. So the whole
so COM will work on top of HMIs is what we're thinking.
Yeah,
okay,
that's what it's looking like right
any
now.
sort of airdrop, there's like a rescue token function in that contract where you can pull out tokens that aren't HEX from that contract. Okay,
I think
like it.
the way that it works on a tech level, which I know you're all about the tech, Fast Abdul, it basically allows you to run a it allows the ability to run other functions outside of the HSI base function set, which is what you can only do now, which is like start, end, borrow, and pay off like your debt, or sell to the ICOSA contract. Arbitrary functions. You can run arbitrary functions. I believe that's what it's called. So that, and there were some other airdrops back in the day. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember the ones. This is so long ago. What was it?
Years.
It was quite a while ago. But there were other ones that launched where they only allowed native HEX stakes to mint those airdrops. Was it like P Doge, or it was like Doge on PulseChain? There
was.
It was the one that Gunther.
Yeah, the one connected to Pulse Bitcoin. Pulse Doge.
Pulse Doge, yeah, that one. I think that one.
And it was
worth a lot of money
at the time. Totally. Yeah, it was worth a ton of money at the time. So yeah, that that was a thing. Okay, well that's a pretty good upgrade. Now I seem to recall from the Telegram room something about people will have an option, their choice, to switch their V1 Hedron, V1 ICOSA, and perhaps also their V1 Watsas for the V2 version.
Yep. So there is a timeline for the tokens. Let me see if I can find the exact numbers. It was like you have like 30 days to do it at 1-for-1, and then after 30 days it like cuts in half.
Okay, so it did give a ratio. Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. But the Watsas can be upgraded at any point in time. So there is no penalty if you come in late to be able to upgrade them. So I think that was one of the things. It's like, this isn't an airdrop. You don't have to upgrade them if you don't want to. You have the option to upgrade them. And so with that, one important piece that I'm going to be looking for is like, what does the liquidity do when that happens? Because obviously people who want to upgrade will be pulling their liquidity, if they have any, and then putting it into V2. And so there's going to be kind of similar to when PulseChain launched. There's kind of like, where'd the liquidity go? Like, what's the liquidity situation? There's going to be a little lag time to see what the new setup's going to be.
As far as liquidity goes, the one part that I'm not necessarily concerned, but just curious about how it'll turn out, or if there'll be changes made, because this may be an issue, is if there is a 1-to-1 exchange, like if ICOSA on or not Hedron on Ethereum is worth the same as Hedron on PulseChain, that is not the current case, right? For Hedron or ICOSA, right? So that would be a big weird arbitrage moment if that were to happen.
Yeah, basically, if you are purchasing any of these assets in preparation for V2, you want to buy the cheaper one, because even though their prices are not the same across the two assets right now, on V2, they will essentially be the same token, because you can always go from one to the other at a 1-to-1 ratio on V2. So
I wonder if you might renege on part of that deal, though, in terms of, because we have the new V2 Hedron, which is the same on both chains, right? But which makes sense for the Pulse Hedron version, because that's the higher priced one. But I'd wonder if you'd be like, okay, and the one from Ethereum gets you half of a V2. Because
like on the back, because of the price is different.
I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, it's possible. None of the details that were shared are set in stone. Obviously, the things that are set in stone is the thing that are published on the blockchain. Those are the real rules are when the contract is published, not what's talked about beforehand.
One of the things I think may make a big difference, and I'm pretty sure this will be part of the plan, is when they move to V2, the stakes that are getting the bonus hedron, I'm guessing they're not going to get bonus hedron in the V2 version.
I believe there was some talk about that, removing the bonuses, which I know people would really like that. The community would love.
Some people would, and
some people would, and some people wouldn't. Yeah.
But that, those were a money printing machine. Like if you had that early faith, you were getting because the bonus hedron you got was it was more than the regular hedron you got on the same stake. Like it was a huge amount. If you had a 10x bonus HSI, like those things were definitely worth a premium. But it added a lot of sell pressure to the system, I think, right?
Yeah, it was definitely that was the biggest criticism of the ecosystem from the beginning. And it was coming, partly from people who had these big stakes. They're basically like, I have all these, I have thousands of T-shares and I'm minting like $4,000 a month from doing nothing. And like, I have no incentive to hold this. And it's definitely true. Like it is sell pressure on the chart. My rebuttal to that always was the supply is dependent on the T-share rate, and so going forward from that point in time, it's going to eventually dry up. But yeah, in that period of time from when you got the 10x's to when those 10x's are up, then that is a lot of sell pressure added on top of the hedron chart. So that there were talks about potentially removing that for V2, but we'll have to see what is actually announced when it comes. This is another interesting one. There is for hedron, if you bid on an auction, there's a 0.369% fee for each bid placed. So this disincentivizes micro bidding. And then those, of course, are given to ICOSA stakers. So there's another revenue source for the ICOSA stakers as well.
Right. Thus making ICOSA worth more, thus making the ratio to HEX better, and then thus making more auctions happen. So yeah. I see how this all adds up. I'd really like Alex to just, come on the screen. If you're here, Alex, DM Max and just hop on. Just tell us when and, the details, because he's been pretty quiet for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to hear him talk again. I always enjoy whenever he pops up on stream. He always has good stuff to say. I always learn something.
Not that he was ever super loud or anything, or that he, was on a ton of streams, but whenever he was, it was educational.
Yeah. See, Crispy, what's the play with hedron? We have liquid right now. What I'm doing for my liquid hedron, I'm just holding it. I haven't added to any of my stakes because they're not as lucrative from a cash flow perspective. But I'm just holding on to my tokens for V2. That's personally what I'm doing. And yeah, Biggie, we want Alex. I know you guys. I would rather listen to Alex talk about this stuff than listen to me talk about it. So I get that.
The information that was released indirectly from Alex about the Sigma thing, I find that encouraging because, like, even though it's not him on the screen, it's like recent news from Alex, right? Like, and if there's one thing I've figured out from all the thousands and thousands of times I've DM'd him, sent him monkey pictures without him replying, is he doesn't really care of what we think, right? Like, he's just doing his own thing.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to remember is he's a one man show. It's not a team or anything behind him. He's doing all of the coding work, all of the front end work. Of course, he is a person in the real world who has a job and real world responsibilities as well. So this is it's impressive all that he's built completely on his own, and he's good enough to do it all on his own, and so that's what he's doing.
Yeah, he's a real dev. There's not very many real devs that are as public facing as he is, right? It's I keep my guys in the back room because they super autistic. They got to stay back there.
You got to translate for them in real people talk, in comprehensible talk.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's usually how it is, right? Is they're not, they're just not thinking about the same things as everybody else, which is kind of what you want them to do. So.
Yeah.
Alex seems to be able to walk that line when he wants to.
Yeah. I think I remember Fashion Coder, her job, like her IRL job, was like the liaison between like the management and like project and like the devs, and it's like that makes someone who can articulate things and knows what's going on to talk with the coding people and then translate it to real world speak. That's a whole job in of itself.
Oh yeah, that's probably the only girl those guys ever talked to.
But yeah, I mean, overall, we're pretty much in the same place that we've been, waiting for official updates. I have no doubt that when we get more definitive timelines on this stuff, everyone's going to be real excited about it and want to jump in on it. I think one thing that is easy to forget is the amount of legwork that Alex did to get like altcoins on top of HEX like accepted in the community. Before Hedron and Icosa, there were a lot of them. Like I don't even remember what they were, honestly, but they were basically, riffs off HEX. They weren't accepted by the community, and then Hedron and Icosa was the first one where the community mostly adopted it and kind of opened up the avenue for people to build on top of HEX, and that's how we got things like Maximus right afterwards. Yep. Like it did a lot of the legwork so that team could make their stuff and the perpetuals, and then that's opened the door for things like Com to be more accepted. It was like, yeah, someone's building on HEX again, and then even more recently Actuator Protocol. So it's kind of, Hedron and Icosa have a very important part in the history books of HEX and PulseChain, especially even more with HSIs, because it allows people to build on top of HEX stakes. Like even if the price does nothing and goes to zero, that piece of tech right there has been a value add for the ecosystem overall.
Well, I think that was essential for Actuator to have that HSI option. I think that's built into their code.
Exactly. They would have had to build that piece of tech themselves. And so now they didn't have to, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They already had the tech there for it, so they just plugged it in.
I'd be so stoked when this launches. Like, I remember the early days of Icosa, like the arbitraging of HEX stakes, right? And like the bottom line is it results in people making many Quattro Cinco HEX stakes, like 15-year HEX stakes, to sell them to the contract for Icosa, but it's still staked HEX, right? It's just like that then other people can bid on in the auctions. So like, how much HEX got Quattro Cinco staked because of the Icosa protocol? It must be a stupid number.
It's a lot, and people were making new stakes just for that protocol, like you were saying, to do that initial arbitrage. So that was a lot of HEX that's now just locked up. And that can be turned on at any point in time whenever the prices make it make sense. I think I remember you DMing me early on to be like, "Hey, look how much like HEX I've made from all this arbitrage." Like at the very beginning.
Yeah, it was sweet. Yeah,
and
it was like I put through like hundreds of thousands of dollars in HEX into HEX stakes, sell it to the Icosa contract, and then use the Icosa I made to buy back more HEX than I just sold. But now that the HEX that I sold lives in a 15-year stake, right? That someone else can choose to buy, right? So, and people did choose to buy it. So it was like, it was really fun for one, right? Like you can make, and sometimes you're making like $30. So you put in $1,000 for the HEX and you take out $1,030 for the HEX, but still, like, it's like great. And you just staked $1,000 for the HEX for 15 years. Like, where's the downside, right?
Yeah. Each iteration of that flywheel results in a action that is definitive and not able to be taken back. So it's not like it's this infinite thing. It's all dependent on the HEX supply. So playing it out to its logical conclusion, if you assume that it goes on forever, which isn't, the best assumption to make, but if you make the assumption, then that just ends up, with HEX being locked for 15 years until the supply dries up. If you were to, assume that if Icosa was $1 million forever, then all the HEX that exists will get locked up forever. Like that's what
14 years from now, those HSIs that are, minted out for, or 13 years, I think now, those HSIs that are minted out for 15 years going to be worth a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And those 10X ones right now are hot commodities if you're able to get them.